Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson had completed over 200 combat jumps during his 6 years as an airborne ranger. But tonight's halo insertion into enemy territory felt different from the moment he exited the aircraft. The drop zone was supposed to be clear, but as he descended through 10,000 feet with his unit spread across the night sky, radar-guided surface-to-air missiles started streaking past his parachute, and skydive protocol meant their stealth insertion had become a shooting gallery. The C-130 Hercules had taken off from a classified airbase in Kuwait 3 hours earlier, carrying 12 members of the 75th Ranger Regiment on a high-altitude, low-opening mission deep into Iraqi territory. Their objective was to conduct direct action against a high-value target, a terrorist leader coordinating attacks against coalition forces from a fortified compound approximately 200 kilometers behind enemy lines. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson served as the team's jump master and senior non-commissioned officer, responsible for ensuring the technical execution of their airborne insertion and leading the tactical operations that would follow. At 31, he had accumulated more combat jump experience than most soldiers would see in entire careers, having participated in operations across Afghanistan, Iraq, and classified missions in locations that didn't appear on official records. The HALO, high altitude, low opening, technique was designed for stealth insertion behind enemy lines. The Rangers would exit the aircraft at 25,000 feet, free fall through the majority of their descent to avoid radar detection, then deploy their parachutes at low altitude for rapid approach to the target area. The technique required extensive training, specialized equipment, and perfect coordination between 12 jumpers spread across miles of airspace. The mission briefing had indicated minimal air defense threats in their target area. Intelligence reports suggested that coalition airstrikes had neutralized most surface-to-air missile sites, and enemy fighter aircraft were believed to be concentrated hundreds of miles away, defending major population centers. The Rangers expected to insert undetected, conduct their mission, and extract via helicopter pickup from a secure landing zone. Marcus activated his team's internal radio network, conducting final communications checks with each Ranger to ensure their equipment was functioning properly. In airborne operations, equipment failure could mean death, not just for the individual Ranger, but potentially for the entire mission if critical capabilities were lost during insertion. Rangers, this is Jump Master. Conduct final equipment inspection. Report ready status for HALO insertion. At 25,000 feet, the C-130 leveled off and reduced speed to optimize conditions for airborne insertion. Marcus could feel the subtle changes in engine noise and aircraft attitude that indicated they were approaching the release point where 12 Rangers would exit the aircraft and begin their controlled descent toward enemy territory. 10 minutes to drop zone, Marcus announced. Stand up, hook up, check equipment. The aircraft's rear door opened, revealing the dark void of Iraqi airspace 25,000 feet above the desert floor. Marcus positioned himself at the door to observe drop zone conditions and make final decisions about the insertion based on real-time tactical assessment. 2 minutes to drop zone. Final equipment check. Prepare for HALO insertion. Marcus studied the terrain below through night vision equipment, confirming that the drop zone appeared clear and that weather conditions remained within acceptable. 1 minute to drop zone. Rangers standby. At exactly 0347 hours, Marcus gave the command that initiated one of the most dangerous phases of special operations warfare. Go, go, go. 12 Rangers exited the C-130 in rapid sequence, disappearing into the night sky above Iraqi territory. Marcus followed his team out of the aircraft, beginning the free-fall descent that would carry them through enemy airspace to their target area below. For the first several thousand feet, the insertion proceeded exactly as planned. The Rangers maintained formation during free-fall, using body positioning and air navigation techniques to stay within tactical distance of each other, while avoiding mid-air collisions that could destroy the mission before it began. Marcus monitored his altimeter and GPS navigation system while scanning the terrain below for visual landmarks that would confirm their approach to the designated landing zone. The desert appeared empty and peaceful, suggesting that their insertion had gone undetected by enemy forces. At 15,000 feet, Marcus began preparing for the transition from free fall to controlled parachute descent. According to their mission timeline, the Rangers would deploy their parachutes at approximately 3,000 feet altitude, allowing minimal time for enemy forces to detect and engage them during their most vulnerable phase. But at 10,000 feet, everything changed. The first surface-to-air missile appeared as a streak of light rising from the desert floor, its radar guidance system locked onto one of the descending Rangers. Marcus watched in horror as the missile passed within meters of Sergeant Rodriguez's position, close enough that the explosion could have killed him instantly if the weapon's proximity fuse had functioned. Rangers, this is Jumpmaster, Marcus transmitted through his helmet communication system. We have SAM launches from the drop zone. Skydive protocol is active. Repeat, Skydive protocol is active. Skydive protocol was the emergency procedure for airborne operations where Rangers came under enemy fire during insertion. The protocol called for immediate evasive action, alternative landing site selection, and coordinated response to air defense threats that could destroy the entire unit before they reached the ground. Additional missiles streaked upward from concealed positions throughout what had been described as a clear drop zone. The intelligence briefing had been catastrophically wrong. Rather than being neutralized, enemy air defenses had been relocated and camouflaged specifically to target American airborne operations. Jumpmaster, this is Ranger 7, came the voice of Corporal Kim through the radio network. I count at least 6 SAM sites active around the primary landing zone. They're tracking our descent and firing at will. Marcus made the tactical decision that would determine whether his Rangers lived or died during the next few minutes. All Rangers, alter descent path to secondary landing site. Deploy chutes at 5,000 feet and execute evasive maneuvering. Do not approach primary drop zone. The Rangers immediately began using their body positioning to alter their free fall trajectory, steering away from the missile-defended primary landing zone toward an alternative site that had been identified during mission planning. But changing direction during free fall was a slow process, and the enemy missiles continued tracking their descent. Inactive during the first attack, confirming that the enemy had prepared an integrated air defense system specifically designed to destroy American airborne insertions. The trap was sophisticated and well-coordinated, suggesting professional military planning rather than improvised insurgent activity. Rangers, deploy chutes now, Marcus commanded as another missile passed dangerously close to his position. Execute maximum evasive action during canopy approach. 12 parachutes bloomed in the night sky as the Rangers transitioned from free fall to controlled descent. But deploying their parachutes made them easier targets for the surface-to-air missiles that continued launching from concealed positions around the drop zone. Marcus used advanced parachute maneuvering techniques to present the most difficult possible target for enemy missile systems. By varying his rate of descent, changing direction unpredictably, and using terrain features to mask his approach, he attempted to defeat the radar guidance systems that were tracking his parachute. The next few minutes tested every skill the Rangers had developed during their airborne training. Each man maneuvered independently to avoid missile attacks while attempting to reach the ground in a formation that would allow them to conduct coordinated defensive operations once they landed. Ranger 4 is hit, came the urgent transmission from Sergeant Martinez. I have equipment damage from missile fragments. Parachute is partially collapsed. Marcus watched as Martinez struggled to control his damaged parachute, descending faster than planned toward terrain that could kill him even if he survived the missile attack. Ranger 4, attempt to steer toward the wadi 200 meters north of your current position. Use the depression for cover once you land. The coordinated evasive action prevented the enemy missiles from achieving direct hits on any of the descending Rangers, but several came close enough to cause equipment damage and minor injuries from shrapnel. More critically, the Ranger unit was now scattered across several square kilometers of hostile territory instead of landing in the concentrated formation necessary for their direct action mission. When Marcus finally reached the ground and conducted his parachute landing fall, He immediately activated his radio to establish contact with his dispersed team. All Rangers, report status and position. Conduct immediate rally procedures to secondary assembly area. The responses confirmed that all 12 Rangers had survived the insertion, but several had sustained injuries and equipment damage that would affect their mission capabilities. More importantly, their stealth insertion had been completely compromised. Enemy forces now knew American Rangers were in the area and would be actively hunting them. Rangers, skydive protocol remains active. Marcus transmitted as he gathered his equipment and prepared for ground operations. Primary mission is scrubbed. We are now conducting evasion and escape to alternate extraction point. The Rangers who had expected to conduct a surprise attack against a high-value target instead found themselves scattered across hostile territory, pursued by enemies who had turned their insertion into a deadly trap. But their airborne training and tactical skills had allowed them to survive what should have been a massacre, and they remained capable of fighting their way to safety. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson had led over 200 successful combat jumps during his Ranger career. Tonight's insertion had become one of the most dangerous, but skydive protocol had saved 12 lives when enemy air defenses turned their stealth mission into a fight for survival. In the unforgiving world of airborne operations, sometimes the most important victory was simply reaching the ground alive and ready to fight another day.